I was on the real side, and immersed in a real side adventure. It had the makings of rather an awareness stretching and recognition bolstering experience. It would all depend on how much of it I could recognize, and then recount later with the more limited resources of my personal self. While at the beginning stages of the real self-experience, it is always prudent to remain in the state of just being, for this is your real awareness, and to not be in this state, to be anything other than now, has our awareness back with the personal self. The real self-experience may then be diminished, as we are viewing it more so through the construction of our personal selves, layers of obscurity, to the extent that if we fall completely back into the personal self, we will not see the real self-experience at all. It's still going on. Everything is going on in this very new moment. It's simply where our awareness happens to be focused as to what of the everything life is we can perceive. It's dependent upon recognition also, but the best we can draw from any experience, wherever we are, will be from this state of just being, of our real awareness, and then from there we recognize what we are able. This would go for real side dreams also. We would endeavour to be connected with our real awareness by being in this new nowness, and this would afford us the best view that we are able to have in accordance with the extent of our recognition. Anyway, while maintaining this state of real awareness, I was aware of something activating, almost like the impression of the pulling of levers. I would suddenly find that my real awareness view was being obscured, and in keeping with what I have described in relation to this, this would suggest I was moving from this state of being isness, real awareness, to the personal self, although I was not consciously activating anything or deciding to do so. We will have lots of subconscious undercurrents of ideas that make up the maintenance and perpetuation of the created self, and being unconscious of these will not mean they are not exacting their effect. So, were one to be in creation, and with no real self-connection, one could choose to be in the now also, but lacking the connection to the is, they would simply be in the creational cause and effect now. Consequently, such an individual, yes, wouldn't be projecting thought and emotion, but still would be subliminally programmed, and that which makes up the created consciousness that they are, irrespective of what they now no longer are adding to it, is maintained. There would be an underlying stream of generating causes that would keep effecting experience, and so the obfuscation that the personal created self presents in the dream arena would be maintained. Someone with no connection then to the true reality would be unable to have real self-experiences. Perhaps more expansive experiences in creation from the personal self, if they conquered the mind and emotions, say. So were I to have gone on to the real side, and be having a more expansive experience due to my choosing to be now, but from a personal creational perspective, but had no connection to my real awareness, I may well expect the subliminal programming and created consciousness to still obscure this to an extent. With the connection to the real awareness, the new nowness is a different state of being. It's a now position that isn't of creation, but a now position that is the real awareness, that is the is, beyond the controlled simulator. Consequently, if I decide to be in the new nowness of the is, I am not only choosing not to activate the mental and emotional facilities of the created self, but am beyond the subconscious underlying consciousness and subliminals also, as these can have no bearing on the real awareness. Sometimes, as I practice the maintenance of my being-isness state on the physical, like the sun shining, I can receive a nagging impression. These nagging impressions I have come to determine are thoughts and emotions that are not on the surface, that I am not consciously creating. So these are deeper subconscious ideas that are operating, or being stimulated somehow, perhaps through subliminals, as often I have these nagging sensations when I use the technologies, or maybe from the influence, the third head of the calum, as it seeks to keep us in creation by stimulating the drives that are most likely to achieve this. However, when I receive these nagging feelings, I am not at the mercy of them, as I would be should I have no connection with my real self, and my awareness be isolated in creation. It takes a degree more focus than simply ceasing conscious thoughts, a kind of letting go. It's not always that we can determine the exact nature of these subconscious thoughts, but that isn't really so important. Interestingly, I would not be able to get to a point where I can identify the nagging sensations unless I am primarily in a state of being isness, of not consciously activating thought or emotion. If I was activating the mental faculties of the personal self, it would cloud and conceal the more subtle undercurrents of the subconscious ideas. So in each new moment, you can effectively get through the entirety of the personal self, facing the self in one new moment. You can consciously decide to stop activating the personal self. You can be in the new nowness of the ears and standing in your real awareness. You can then determine the nagging undercurrents of further hidden aspects of your personal self, and with a little focus in that new moment, a sort of letting go, which is hard to explain. You can even cease these ideas. When this state is achieved, when you stand in your real awareness, when there is nothing of your personal self activating, although you will still have your personal self while in creation, we might say you now have the ability to supersede the personal self, and then it comes to a choice if you will decide this, or return back to the personal self. When this state is achieved, I will have the impression of a kind of blissful cool breeze that envelops me, and often I will even activate a personal mental idea that causes this state to diminish, just so I can have the comparison. It's a good practice to be in an experience and fluctuate between the personal self and the real self to compare effectively creation with the is in any given situation or moment. Of course, the personal self then can be superseded, and this is recognized, but from this position we still need to take the time to recognize the is and earn our recognition through our sharings of it, and that's a process. Anyway, as we can see, when these states are decided upon, the decision of maintaining such a state of awareness in our experiences, and indeed all of our experience, wherever we may be in life, is our decision to make. We can only drop out of this being-isness, real awareness state of being, if we activate the personal self, the idea generating facilities of it,